everyone, I'm totally not named Dan, though you can call me that if you want. And it's been a little while since I've done any Digimon content, so I'm bringing back in my buddy, the Sheep, in order to talk about one of the decks that I've been working on.
Hi, happy to be here for this.
Happy to have you. So, you want to pop on over and look at it?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So here we have it. A completely blank card map. So, where do we want to start? Probably actually with the key card of the deck, Chimeramon.
You gotta love it.
Yeah. Now, if you don't know what Chimeramon does, I don't know where you've been this last set, too, because Chimeramon is just crazy. Chimeramon goes in everything. Because, yeah, it's a 4-cost Digivolution into an ultimate, which is a lot, but you get a free source of your choice from your discard pile when you do so. Get to minus DP your opponent's entire board, pretty much. And if you have 2 champions in play, you can DNA Digivolve them regardless of what the champions are, spawning a new Chimeramon in without actively playing it, and thereby getting another free attack. Right?
Yeah, it's just crazy. Any deck is at least running like 2 copies of this deck because there's no reason not to, unless your level 5s are that good, which very few decks are.
Yeah, I mean, I have space problems in a lot of the decks I design, but yes. Yes, it's definitely a thing to run in most decks. And if you somehow get 4 colors under it, even better, because then it hits as a 12k as though it was a mega.
Yeah, it totally needed that effect, you know? That's what
Yeah.
tops the card off the usable.
Yeah, this guy is stupid. So, the idea here was I was going to build a rush deck. Just take a bunch of quick champions to attack with, then go into Chimeramon for the extra attacks. It seemed cool, but then I had another idea. So if we move Chimeramon aside, the next idea was Geogreymon. Now, Geogreymon, not the cheapest of champions, but it's free out of security. You just get a free Digimon out of security and then it becomes Chimeramon. Seems crazy, right?
Yeah, just a free Digimon, and it has the popping effect if they've got to say a rookie on board. So
Yeah.
it's a free
Or,
Digimon, and
more importantly, it hits Bokomon.
yeah, because blue. Well, until actually, I think today actually recording, the blue hybrid deck and the yellow hybrid have been hit.
Yeah, I mean, hybrid decks in general were stupid busted. I'm
Yeah,
really not happy with the BT7 format, and that's part of why my decks have gone the way they have since then. But basically, this is just, it's a real nice 2-for-1 when you hard play it, even if it is quite costly. And it's free off security. It's a great card. So I had to
yeah.
include that. And then what goes with that? Well, this one, Bordramon, which is similar, but rather than 2-for-1ing your opponent's board, you just get a whole load of hand advantage.
Which is always great to have more cards in hand.
It certainly makes the deck a lot more consistent. And if I zoom out a tiny bit, you'll see we're running 4 copies of all of those.
Yeah, because they're the ones you want to see most.
Yeah, but, I mean, if we're relying on security, there is also one other thing that absolutely has to go in, right?
Yep.
Omnimon's what, D?
Yeah, he's just the staple, really good security Digimon.
Yeah. And doesn't battle on security, but still is a 13k that can backswing. And if you manage to Digivolve into it, you delete one of their tamers, which is very occasionally relevant to just screw them over memory-wise when they thought they were safe with a memory setter.
Yeah, or that a few with
Also,
quite a good effects as well.
if they do anything about it, it's a basically it's just better retaliation. Deletes any of their Digimon when this dies, regardless of whether it was by combat or not.
It's just so useful. They get rid of it, and then just it takes one with it.
Yeah, it's stupid pricey, but there's a good reason for that. But D's nuts.
Yeah.
So, that's the basic security package, but now we're relying on security a whole load, right? what's the opponent going to do about that? Obviously, they're just going to build up until they can go in straight for the kill. Have a full board that will just wipe me out from 5 security, right? So they don't have to deal with anything that comes in.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so we have solutions to that. And the solutions to that are recovery. Big one being Holy Wave. If they hit Holy Wave in security, that's just a free extra security for them to deal with.
Yeah.
Also means
There's no
we can
reason
more
not to.
consistently hit the big guys out of security just because we get more cards in security.
Yep. Just makes it work a bit more.
Yeah, it's nothing crazy, but the fact that it costs 6 from hand is kind of but
It could be worse though.
it does the job.
Yeah.
And yeah, it could be worse, but it could be a hell of a lot better. And that's why we're running 1 copy of Reinforcing Memory Boost. We would be running 6. Oh, sorry. We would be running 4, not 6. Obviously, if they let us run 6, we'd run 6. If they let us run 12, we'd run 12. But as is, they only let us run 1. It's restricted.
Yeah, restricted for good reason because it's just
Yeah.
adding whatever you want to your security sets up so many things. Not even just this, where you can put a security Digimon on top.
It's not exactly adding what you want. It's adding one of 2 things. But even so, it's because of the memory it gives you back, it's essentially half the cost of Holy Wave. It lets you manipulate your memory on a future turn, so potentially gives you 5 on a turn, or even 6 to hard play one of your champions and not pass. And yeah, you can get a little bit more choice over what goes into security, and you get a card to hand. So compared to Holy Wave, this is just absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
It is not an okay card. It
It's
is
not.
absolutely limited for a reason. The only downside is if you look at that security effect, that's you place it in your battle area and you gain the memory off the delay effect. You don't get the recovery off security, which
That would be a bit too much.
I mean, that's a bit of a downside. But speaking of recovery off security, here's possibly the most busted one. The EX1 Leomon.
Yeah, he's just great in all senses of the word.
Now, this one, I mean, he's a 2-cost Digivolve champion at 5k. He's decent stats. And yeah, sometimes we will actually Digivolve into him. Because we do run a yellow core to support all of this recovery. But the main reason he's in here is this security end of battle. If you have 3 or fewer security cards, recover 1 deck. Now, thing that hopefully most people know by now, but just in case you don't, is once the card is revealed, it is no longer in your security. It is in what Universus would call the transitionary or transit zone. I don't believe Digimon has a name for it or even considers it a real zone, but there is a point where Leomon is between being in your security and being in your trash, and during that point is when the effect goes off. So if you have 4 in your security when your opponent attacks, and then you reveal Leomon, there are only 3 in your security once Leomon is revealed.
Yeah.
It is very important to note that he triggers on basically the second hit if you haven't recovered anything else.
Yeah, and security is nice. The great thing is being able to sometimes Leomon recover 1, which puts a Leomon on top, which is always funny.
The other thing with that is, even if your opponent delicate plans to say options don't work, Leomon isn't an option.
Yeah.
And there's a whole load more interactions with a security Digimon than with an option. You'll see those later.
Yeah.
But to get us into that, we got a couple of rookies. So, rookies are Salamon. This Salamon is wild. I mean, it can Digivolve from purple. We don't care about that. We're playing a yellow base. But what we do care about is the end of turn DNA Digivolve. So, if you go from this into Leomon, then you can just play any level 4, get all the effects off the level 4, and then DNA into Chimeramon, or potentially one of our other level 5s.
Yeah, it's just great in that regard. Just so it's why I don't see like Imperial did the same thing, and that just I don't see why more people aren't playing that.
Yeah,
it's just stupid.
I don't know why people aren't playing it in green blue, but certainly this Salamon sees a ton of play, and it sees play here. specifically to get us to that Chimeramon and potentially beyond as well. But it's just the idea that, I mean, the best bit is if you take Cordramon with its draw 2 on play, you play the Cordramon, you draw 2, that could potentially draw you into your DNA Digivolution target. And then you trigger it.
Yeah, but then you get to draw another card for the Digivolve as well. So
Well, there's that too, but it's just basically you can play Cordramon to fish for the DNA Digivolution and still do it even if Cordramon ends your turn.
yeah, it's just great.
Yeah. Yeah. This thing is stupid. And I mean, our other Salamon is also a little bit stupid, but given the amount of recovery we have in the deck, this Salamon doesn't do nearly as much, because you very rarely have 3 or fewer security cards for any length of time. It's insurance, but mostly it's just another 0 Digivolution.
Yeah, I also swear that it never actually dies to security, that card.
But I mean, if you really needed to die, you can swing into your opponent's stuff. Or my favorite one is to say, oh, you've got a minus DP when attacking effect. Well, if you attack me, my Salamon's going to die, because you have to target.
It's always fun.
Yeah. So this thing's a bit of a laugh. But it's not the best, hence why I'm only running 3 of it. And yes, that does mean we're only running 7 rookies. Remember, half our champions come off security anyway.
Yeah, so we're not exactly digivolving in this deck for off rookies at least.
But we are a little bit with Leomon and with Black Gatomon here. But I mean, if the opponent ever gives us 5 memory, this is just, we hard play this rush if we need to.
Yeah.
Black Gatomon is real good because it's 6k, it gets over a lot of things. Security, most other champions. And it's yellow-purple, so it digivolves from our yellow and gives us access to purple, which gives Chimeramon purple as well, and you'll see why that's important a little later, so you can probably guess.
Plus the whole having given something retaliation is great as well, so they can't just easily battle something to get rid of it.
Even if they hit over my Mega, because my Mega isn't the biggest of Megas, this will then just kill off whatever they attack with. And so many times, people just won't look at that inherited effect. They'll be like, attack your Digimon and delete it. Okay, yours dies too. Oh, what are you talking about? Mine's got plus however many K off inherited effects. Yeah, well, mine's got retaliation. Oh.
Yeah, it's ruined me a few times with my Tyrannomon that wants to pierce.
I mean, if they really want to take it back, I'll let them, but just a lot of the time, people will take it and just lose their Mega to attacking mine. So yeah, that's all the lower end, but then... And we do actually have one more recovery Digimon, and that's Shakomon here. Shakomon digivolves for a 4 cost and gives me recovery, which already, that's cheaper than Holy Wave, it's real nice. But if I manage to Jogress this, or DNA Digivolve if you prefer, from yellow and blue, then it also returns something with a level less than or equal to the number of cards in security to my opponent's hand. And the nice part about that is that because we have so much recovery, there is a good chance that this can just return a level 6.
Your Mega's nice though. It was a shame if something happened to it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, sure, this probably gives them a decent bit of memory. They can probably hard play it again. But if they do, that's going to give us memory. And,
yeah,
you know, we can do all sorts of stupid things with that, including the aforementioned Black Gatomon.
And with it returning to hand, it dodges a few effects as well, of like on deletion and such.
Yeah.
But it's not being deleted.
Yeah. It's also real nice to just stick this under Chimeramon, get that minus 3k DP when attacking effect. In addition to any minus DP that Chimeramon itself has.
Yeah, I've had it sometimes kill me before.
Yeah, Shakomon does good stuff. I mean, just the recovery alone is fantastic.
Yeah.
Then we have the yellow-red one, Sylphimon. Sylphimon, just on Digivolution, gives minus 5k. And then, when attacking as an inheritable, deletes a 5k or less. And when DNA Digivolving deletes a 5k or less. Because of the minus 5k for the turn from Digivolving, that can basically delete a minus 10k or less.
Yeah, it's just a great ability.
So yeah, you can get some good use out of that. Sadly, doesn't kill most megas, but I mean,
Mm,
if you
what
give
can you
minus
do?
5k and then attack with it, it can. That totals 13.
That's a lot of getting rid of.
Yeah. Sylphimon is honestly probably our worst level 5, but still a darn good card.
Yeah, he just got some real tough competition. Some people
Yeah.
say Chimeramon is the best card in BTA, and it's hard to argue with him.
PT8, but yes.
But yeah, BTA.
I can definitely argue with them about it being in PT9. I wouldn't say it's the best card in terms of power level, but it's the best card in terms of everything can use it and it's still pretty darn solid.
Yeah, it's just versatility is something a lot of people sometimes forget when looking
Yeah.
at the powerfulest card.
It's also
And it
the
has
only Digimon that can DNA Digivolve from 2 of the same color, which means things like Blue Hybrid used it, or they got banned.
I've done it with Blackwell Greymon before, because you just have a lot of really good level 4 effects and 5, so it lets you have the best of both worlds in that deck.
Personally, I think they really should have restricted it to have to use 2 different colors of Digimon.
Yeah.
It's still darn good. Also, worth noting, its minus DP effect, unlike any of the others in this deck, lingers throughout your opponent's turn. So when your opponent tries to backswing you after Chimeramon with a nice big 10k, you're like, it's a 6k, it dies to security.
Yeah. It catches people off guard, that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's all of that. And yeah, we can Jogress end of turn into any of those level 5s. But if we manage to get our purple underneath Chimeramon, that can then also Jogress into Mastemon here. Now, Mastemon costs 5 to Digivolve, so we'll almost always end our turn. When Digivolving, we take any yellow Digimon from trash and put it on top of security, or a purple one, but we don't have any purples that aren't yellow in here. And you know what we pick? 9 times out of 10, we pick that Leomon you saw earlier.
Yeah.
Because now we get to put a recovery Digimon in. So we've just stacked a recovery effect into our security, essentially gained 2 security out of Mastemon.
Yeah, it's just a great effect to do. It's like, yeah, they know what's there, but does it matter?
But also, they don't exactly know what's there for reasons we'll get to in just a second. Because when DNA Digivolving, you search your stack, play anything level 5 or below. So that's most of the deck. I think the ideal thing to hit with that is the Black Garomon. Just because you get that instant rush attack if Mastemon hasn't passed turn. I mean, there's all sorts of good stuff. Sylphimon and Shakomon are great things to hit because they're halfway to you Jogressing into Mastemon again.
Yeah. You
can
record
just
them
play
on
the
if you need a few draws as well.
Yeah, but you ideally want to leave that in there so your opponent can hit it. But yes.
True.
But also, the PT2 Salamon is a great thing to put out. Because, yeah, it's small, but again, it can trap your opponent into forcing a recovery. And then, when you're done with that, you shuffle your security stack. And that's a separate sentence, so even if you didn't add anything, even if you didn't take anything out, you still shuffle. Regardless of whether you Jogressed or not. So that Leomon you put in could go anywhere. So even if you have 6 security, you put that Leomon in, you shuffle, you just hope that it shows up in the bottom 4. And you've still got a pretty darn good chance that it does. So yeah, all of that's good. But the thing that really makes this is that all turns effect. When you play a Digimon using an effect, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a level less than or equal.
It's ruined me a few times because a lot of my recent decks don't even have a level 6. So Mastemon can very much trap me with these.
Yeah, so Mastemon's play effect instantly deletes things. And anything level 5 or below, really. Also, let's say they hit Geogreymon in security. Now, not only are we deleting a 4k or less, and they're battling a 5k, and we're gaining a Digimon, but also we're deleting a level 4. So we're just wiping their board and substituting our own.
Yeah, Quadramon, for one security.
Yeah, Quadramon becomes a deletion effect, which it wasn't before. Part D kills anything on their board, apart from a D-Reaper card.
Because Vought D really needed a buff.
Yeah, that's all of our Digimon. and all of our options, but we do have a couple of tamers in here. And specifically, they are... Oh, let me get this Mastemon out of the way. Cody. We only run 2 Cody, but Cody says if we have a yellow Digimon at the start of our main phase, we gain a memory. So, basically, anytime we bring one out of raising area, or if one survived the turn, it means our opponent can't memory starve us quite as much. It's quite useful. But also, when one of the Digimon with 2 or more colors attacks, we can suspend it to give minus 2k DP, which just means all our DP reduction effects are that little bit stronger, because basically all of our Digimon are 2 color on our turn. So,
yeah, it's just great.
yeah, I mean, it's not the most insane thing ever, but Cody's helpful. And it's probably the most helpful tamer for this deck.
I like that it's during the main phase because, as you said, you get the raising area as well.
If you bring it out, but why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
And finally, we have our eggs. We have Fremon here. Sorry, the picture's a little blurry. It's remarkably hard to find images of this one for some reason. This is a your turn while you have 3 or more security cards. This Digimon gets plus 1000 DP, which just means everything's that little bit bigger. Our Black Gatomon, for example, becomes a 7k. It now hits over any champion in security.
Yeah, which is great.
Leomon becomes a 6k, so it's pretty close to doing the same. Chacomon becomes a 9k, so it hits over basically any ultimate. And same for Sylphimon. And Chimeramon becomes a 13k and hits over half the Megas and Ultras, but that's a completely different story.
Got a book Chimeramon, he needs it, right?
But the funny part is, against D-Reaper decks and stuff that run a lot of really, really small effect creatures, you can actually swing in with Salamons and expect them not to die if Fremon's under them. Which then means you just get that little bit of extra advantage as a rush deck. You can whittle your opponent down to very little security, and then they're on the back foot for the entire rest of the game. And they're pretty long games with this deck, because you recover, but you also, a lot of the time, they will end up wiping your board, because you give them a fair bit of memory. And so it's quite hard for either of you to close out. And there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of strategy goes into it. I really love playing this deck. But that little bit of early damage helps a lot. And likewise, Cupimon, when attacking, if you have 5 or more security cards, trigger draw 1. This, it's risky because there's a good chance you'll lose your Digimon. But just getting that extra draw means extra consistency for the deck. It's quite helpful.
Yeah, and with all your security increasing effects, having 5 or more is not exactly a tall order.
No, but even so, it's more guaranteeable early in the game. Now, I will note, you can see the gold border on this. This is a BT1 rare. It might be a little difficult to get hold of. You can theoretically bump this Fremon up to 4 and find a different 5th egg, but I do think this is the best 5th egg for the deck, and to the point where it's worth running 2 of it and 3 of the Fremon rather than 4 and 1. So yeah, that's all of that, and this is how the deck looks in its entirety. I am very proud of this. I mean, I have a few different names for it as well. The main one that I like to use is Security Jogress, because it explains exactly what it does. It's a security deck, it Jogresses. It's not security control. Yeah, it has some control elements, but it's more about the recovery, it's more about the battle of attrition. It's not about just delete your opponent's everything out of security until Mastemon comes down, and then it suddenly is.
Yeah. If it was control, you'd probably have like Wyvern's Breath or so in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, like Purple Kari, maybe.
And we do have a lot of control effects on the board, but not so much in the way of insecurity, because all of our DP reduction is from actually playing our level 5s and using Cody. The other common name I use for this, though, is Undead Lesbian Dinosaurs. Because it's just so focused around all off-color level 4s are dinosaurs, are security ones, and then Chimeramon is clearly a dinosaur, and undead. And then they all fuse into this Mastemon here, which, as anybody will tell you, is the most blatantly non-heterosexual of Digimon. It's just,
Yeah.
it's two lady Digimon that kissed so hard they became one.
Yeah. There's no heterosexual explanation for that one.
No. So yeah, that's the fun name for it. But also, this evolved out of my other deck idea, which I always like to call Security No Control. Because it was all the security, none of the control. So yeah, that's that, and that's how that looks right now. You'll notice that in the thumbnail for this, I didn't put a winning deck bit of text over it. That's not just because this isn't the My Hero series of decks that I've been doing. That's also because this actually genuinely isn't a winning deck. It's done well at locals. It's never actually topped the locals. It's come back from some insane things. It's seriously dominated some games, but also it's been seriously dominated in other games, even against the same matchups. It's quite inconsistent, sadly.
Yeah, which is always going to be the case when you're hoping for certain things in your 5 security. It's always going to be a factor
5 security.
that you start the game with.
Yeah, but you know, there's plenty of recovery. There's plenty of recovery from security. This is not 5 security. It's never 5 security.
I think the smallest amount I've ever seen you have in a game against me is like 8.
Yeah, exactly. And not having 5 security is what makes this deck not killable by OTKs, which is kind of what dominates the meta. And that's part of why this exists. But going into BT9, I expect this deck to get a lot better. Because there are 2 new cards that work really well in it. One is, you can see we only have a sample image so far, but this Makomon. Makomon is, yeah, it's a slightly lower stat champion from our Black Gatomon, and it doesn't have the rush. We don't need the rush. The rush only comes into play occasionally. Unlike the security effect, which absolutely comes into play all the time.
Yeah, it's the namesake of the deck. It's security playing.
Yeah, this triggers Cody from security, which is real nice. This gives us a purple out of security, so we can more easily Jogress Chimeramon into Mastemon. This again is a purple we can fish up with Chimeramon to become Mastemon. And most importantly, this on deletion, if this Digimon has 2 or more colors, gain 2 memory. We stick this under Chimeramon, and Chimeramon sadly doesn't have 2 or more colors on the opponent's turn. But the moment it becomes Mastemon, or if this goes under one of our other level 5s, then if our opponent touches it, we just go, oh, our turn now.
Yeah, which is just dumb.
Yeah. And theoretically, you'd even stick 2 of this under Chimeramon.
Yeah, you could.
Or you could Jogress it from 2 of them and stick a 3rd under.
Yeah, 6 memory when you die.
And the ability to then put this back in security using Mastemon so that it plays itself again from security and you get to Jogress it again makes it even sillier.
Yeah, it's a great card for this deck.
This card is insane in this deck. And alongside that, we have Salamon X, or Salamon X Antibody if you prefer, which is a rookie that digivolves for 0 cost again. And it's 3 to play, so it's slightly cheaper than the 3 of Salamon we're running. It's also slightly higher stats, so it can hit over security a bit more. Because the difference between 2 and 3k is actually quite relevant, as Fremon has demonstrated to me multiple times. It has, when digivolving, look at the top card of your security stack, you can add it to your hand if you do recovery 1. So it lets you fix your security a little bit, it lets you fix your hand a little bit. It's nice like that. I mean, even if you don't use that ability, it's Digivolve 0 from Salamon. Your level 3 can Digivolve into another level 3 just for extra card draw.
And you can even use that when Digivolve and set people, even if it's a card that isn't a security effect, which it likely will be, you can just leave it there anyway when they may not attack into your security thinking it's something you want there.
Yeah. So there's mind games with it. You can add consistency to the deck by digivolving from the same level or from your egg. and you can add consistency to your deck by potentially drawing an extra card from your stack. So it's just real nice.
Yeah, there's no downside to it.
Well, the downside is you don't get the recovery, but in this
Yeah.
deck, we're rarely low enough for Salamon to give us the recovery anyway.
Yeah.
This is definitely the more optimal Salamon.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And yeah, that's everything that's going in the new set. It's not a huge number of new cards. It's just some really good ones.
Yeah, and excited to do that.
If you want to see that, me and Una here will be both streaming on our respective channels. Links in the description down below. Our first try of the BT9 format on Twitch at 8 this Friday. See you there, everyone.
See ya.